Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. While Kral and Tataru are off tracking down Estinien, news comes in that Thancred and Urianger are on their way back from Garlemald. With all of the weird stuff that's been happening, Alice hopes that they have some good news. When Thancred gets back, he's a little upset that you all cured tempering while he was gone, since now he can't brag about the fact that he helped. Granted, Alphinaud admits that all the real credit goes to the Warrior of Light, Alice and Grahatia. All he did was act as an ether battery. The fact that Thancred shows up without Urianger has the twins wondering if he managed to lose the man somewhere. Apparently Thancred had tried, but he failed. Instead, Urianger had decided to let Raubahn and the others in Ala Mhigo know what was going on in Garlemald while Thancred came to tell all of you. It's really bad out there, even worse than what Lys and the others had thought. The entire city seems void of life, all except for the Imperial Palace. Thousands of people are working there day and night to change the palace into a giant Magitech device that's meant to manipulate ether for something. And all of the people working on it move like they were possessed, or tempered. Thancred wanted to get closer, but he figured that would be a bad idea, so they decided to leave. The idea of Garleans being bound to someone's will isn't surprising since Fandaniel was able to control Bahamut. If he can do that, snatching a few people's minds would have been no big deal. The information that Thancred got on his trip is useful, but that's not all he brought. He has a message from Ala Mhigo. Raubahn is having a meeting to talk about what they found out about the towers, and they want the Scions to be there for it. Thancred wants to hear what he found out too, because the towers have really been bugging him since he first saw them, so it's off to Ala Mhigo you all go. When you all make it to the city, you're greeted by another Scion, Alphinaud's good friend Arenvald. He had told Alphinaud the last time they talked that he was off on a mission, so running into him in the city was a bit unexpected. Apparently seeing that Alphinaud had been gone for a whole year and still didn't grow is something that Arenvald comments on, even though he knows the boy's body hadn't actually aged a year. He just wanted to call Alphinaud short in a sneaky, sophisticated way. Ellison hit their growth spurt late, but Alphinaud is positive that Arenvald will have to look up to him in the future. That's more than true because Urianger didn't reach his full height until he was 20. Of course, he was still shorter than his girlfriend Moonbrita. The reason Arenvald is in Ala Mhigo is because of Fordola. The two of them have some things to do before they head out on their mission, but Arenvald will talk to Alphinaud about it after the meeting. With Arenvald and Fordola working together, Alphinaud already has an idea of what their mission might be. All of the Alliance leaders are at the meeting, and the first thing they do is thank Thancred and Urianger for gathering information from Garlemald for them. It was extremely dangerous, but nothing compared to fighting an Estinien and Bahamut. Of course, Fandaniel nor the dragon had made an appearance since that day, so there's no telling what he'll do next, or when. So in the meantime, members of each city-state have been sending people out to check the towers. The scouts they sent came back tempered, but because of the Porxies they were able to be healed. After they recovered, all they remembered was getting close to the tower, hearing a loud roar, and the next thing they knew, they were being cured. But unlike other tempered, they were chanting "Glory be to Garlemald," meaning their wills were bound to a nation and not a particular entity, which changes everything that they all thought they knew about tempering. That's not the only bit of bad news. The Amojab were not the only beast tribe to be missing members. Every other tribe in Eorzea has apparently had members kidnapped, and Emmerich thinks the abductions have something to do with the towers after his scouts saw figures wearing all black leading some Ixal towards the tower in Dravania. The Temple Knights were able to free the Ixal and capture their captors, who all had Garlean equipment. It seems like Fandaniel has recruited a group of Garleans and have them operating at his command. At first the Alliance had planned on marching on Garlemald from the east and west to force them into a peace treaty, but the towers seem to be a more major threat and they need to be dealt with. With the risk of tempering being present around every tower, the only people who can safely scout them out are ones with the Echo, so Raubahn chose Fordola and Arenvald to take on this extremely dangerous mission. Alphinaud's not exactly comfortable with the fact that his friend is taking on a mission so dangerous. He's not a rookie when it comes to combat, but he has far less experience than any of the lead Scions. Still, there aren't many people who have access to the Echo, so he'd feel pretty pathetic if he didn't go. When it comes to Fordola, seeing what's become of Garlemald and knowing that she had been a part of them makes her feel a strong need to find out what exactly she had really been working for. Since they're both positive that they want to do this, Thancred wants to know what tower they're going to. The one in Girabani is apparently too well guarded, so they're going to go to the one in Paglth'an, which is deep in the heart of Amojah territory. Arenvald and Fordola know that area well, so they should be fine. Once it's all done, Alphinaud wants to take another trip to Loch Sel with Arenvald to show him that he's finally learned how to swim since the last time the three of you had gone exploring there. He really hasn't, and Arenvald rightly doesn't believe it either, but time is of the essence, so he and Fordola head off, and Alphinaud decides that it's time for you all to track down Lunar Bahamut. With perfect timing, Tartaru calls you on a link pearl to tell you that they found Estinien, but he ran off as soon as they mentioned Bahamut. He did say he was going to Ishgard, so you all head there even though he'll probably be gone by the time you make it. Urianger and Thancred leave that to the rest of you while they head back to the Rising Stones to tell everyone what happened. Alice is actually eager to meet the famous Estinien, and from what Alphinaud said about the man, she'll be disappointed if seeing him doesn't make her go all weak in the knees and faint. Of course, the man might not even be there anymore, which is why Tartaru sent over the Bonanza just in case you need to chase the Dragoon down again. Surprisingly, Estinien is still in the city, and he actually finds all of you. Then he makes the fatal mistake of mistaking Alice for Alphinaud. He even rubs her head and calls her rugged, which really ticks her off. G'raha goes full fanboy over him, which makes him even more confused, and of course the Warrior of Light just stands there and stares. Fortunately, Alphinaud heard Alice shouting, and he shows up to explain the whole twin situation. Seeing the two of them interact in such a friendly way makes Alice think back to how Alphinaud never really got along with other boys growing up because he always wanted to be the one in charge. Seeing how he acts with Estinien and Arenvald makes her think he's changed. The Warrior of Light thinks he sees them as brothers he never had, which is a job Alice doesn't think anyone should want because being his sister was hard. I can't lie, I think being her brother would be harder considering the fact that she's kind of violent with a short temper. It was only pure luck that you caught Estinien in the city. He was about to borrow an airship and head to Azizla to speak to Tiamat. She was Bahamut's mate and she's still alive and imprisoned there. Since she's the one who first summoned Bahamut as a primal, Estinien thinks she might be able to give a bit of information about this new version of her former mate. Since you all now have an airship of your own, you decide to go together. However, Alice warns him that if he mistakes her for Alphinaud again, she'll throw him off of the ship. Literally, while it's in flight. Other than the Warrior of Light, Estinien is the only one of you all who's actually met Tiamat. He had gone to talk to her after the Dragonsong War to find out if she wanted revenge against mortals too for what they had done to her in the past. Unlike Nidhogg, she didn't. She stopped hating you all a while ago, but she still feels guilty for resurrecting Bahamut in the first place. Estinien was actually worried about her, but it wasn't solely his own doing. Nidhogg is a part of him now, and he could tell that Nidhogg didn't want his sister to become a tool for evil. Since Nidhogg is gone, Estinien feels it's his job to look out for her. Tiamat doesn't seem to know about anything that's happened, so you let her know about Fandaniel and his Bahamut. Hearing that Bahamut has been summoned again does not make her happy, but she didn't sense the summoning at all. The only people she could think of who could have summoned Bahamut were their children in Mericidia. When Bahamut was first summoned by the Allagans, he had tempered the dragons who were used in the summoning and made them work for the Allagans. If the same thing has happened again, then the dragons of Mericidia are very likely under Fandaniel's control. Hearing that the Ascians are once again tarnishing Bahamut's memory and enslaving her children really upsets Tiamat, and Estinien uses that to his advantage. He came to Azizla for one reason, to get Tiamat to help fight to avenge her children and her mate. While fighting would be something Tiamat might be willing to do, she was the first one to summon Bahamut back, and she got tempered too. However, with something as powerful as she is, she was able to keep her own will. But if she fights this new Bahamut, it might be able to turn her. And the dragons of the first brood at full power are way more powerful than any of you. The only reason the Warrior of Light was able to fight Nidhogg was because Racevelgar had given her his eye. If Tiamat joins the Ascians, the world's gonna burn. The other problem is she's not strong enough to break her shackles. The tempering can be cured, and even though Alice hasn't tried it on something the size of a building before, it should still work, with enough ether. So that's one problem you can solve, and if you can free her from the Allagan prison, it'll give Tiamat the chance to put Bahamut to rest for good. When the dragon's planet was destroyed, Hydaelyn gave them a safe place to live, and Tiamat feels she owes her a debt so she can't let your world end. If you free her, she'll fight with you. While Alice is sure she can cure Tiamat, this isn't one of those things you do without doing as much research as you can, because if they free her and she's still tempered, somebody's gonna get swallowed. Fortunately, the Allagans kept highly detailed records about everything they had captured in Azizla, and G'raha knows where to get that information on Tiamat. While he and Alice work on that, the rest of you have to figure out how to let her out. The control nodes are on the flagship, and since G'raha keeps a spirit vessel with his blood in it in his pocket, he gives it to you so you can operate the machines. Him, Rambros, and Urianger have been trying to find a way to transfer different bloodline traits to people through the vessels, so he started carrying one with him at all times so he can run tests when he has a few minutes. The three of you head to the flagship, and having G'raha's spirit vessel makes the nodes be more than willing to talk to you, so finding the node that controls the dragon restraints isn't all that difficult. Using G'raha's vessel, it lets you activate it. However, it can't release Tiamat without a system update, because it can't access the controls with its outdated software. Fortunately, the control panel it needs isn't far away, and it's annoyingly happy to show you where it is. Since this thing is clearly running on some type of Apple software, the update is estimated to be done in about 5 years, but Alphinaud thinks he can figure out a way to make it happen faster, but he'll need time and that spirit vessel. Since you and Estinien will be pretty much useless here, you can go and do whatever you want, and Alphinaud will call you when he figures it out. Before you do anything, Estinien wants to know something. The Ascians were behind the war with the dragons and the Allagans, the dragons and the Ishgardians, and pretty much every other problem you've had. But you've tried to find common ground with them more than once. He wants to know what you're going to do when you find Fandaniel. Fandaniels know him itself, and you do not plan on reasoning with him, which is good because Estinien thinks that kindness you try to always show people is going to come back and bite you one day. He doesn't think you're wrong for operating the way you do, but sometimes people just need to die, and if you try to make friends with them, you could have wasted time that gets one of your friends killed. He's right, but that doesn't mean you're going to change. Since you can't help Alphinaud, you all head back to Alice to tell her what's going on. She and G'raha have found out that Tiamat's tempered state is similar to that of the kobolds, so the treatment should work, but the amount of ether and treatments it'll take to fix is going to be a problem. The fact that Tiamat shows a milder case of tempering than the others will help a little bit. It's only because she saw Bahamut as an equal and not a god that she escaped being controlled. The talking has gone on for long enough, so you tell Alphinaud to turn off the ether dampeners around the dragon and Alice gets to work. Tiamat immediately starts to feel better, but as the tempering fades, memories of the battle she had with Alec come back. G'raha thinks getting her to focus on her memories will help speed up the process, so since the dragon trusts you, he wants you to make her talk about her past to help stir up some memories. Since you're always eager to learn more, you ask her about the Ascians and Bahamut. The Allagans had their own stuff, but they decided to take Meracidia, which was the dragon's home. Way back when Bahamut and Tiamat first headed off to find a place of their own, they came across the very fertile land of Meracidia, even though it wasn't called that until later. When they first got there, they were welcomed by the people of the forest. It was a nice place, and the dragons decided to raise their kids there. When the children of men got there, at first they made it a point to not step on the dragon-controlled land, and the dragons left them alone too. But as more and more people came and started claiming more and more land, eventually they started to fight over it. The fighting seemed to go on forever, until one day people came to the dragons to get them to keep the peace. Bahamut agreed to do it, and with him watching over the people of Meracidia, the land became peaceful again. That lasted until the Allagans killed Bahamut, and Tiamat listened to the Ascians and summoned him back as a primal, which led to all the death and destruction that you know all too well. The whole time the dragon was talking, Alice was trying to cure her, and she's pretty much out of ether. Estinien decides to get to a spot where he can get a good first hit on Tiamat if Alice fails, which doesn't make her all that happy since she thinks that means he expects her to fail. I think he's just being practical. Since you're trying to cure a godlike being, Alice actually gets ether from you this time, and with what she gets from you and G'raha, the cure actually works. After feeling the hold of Bahamut actually leave her, Tiamat asks a question that you all should have expected. She wants to know if you can fix Bahamut the same way. But there's no way to cure the tempered who are that far gone, so he'll stay under the Ascian's control until you put him down. And sadly, that's likely the case for her children too. She's going to call out to them once you free her, and if they don't come, she'll put them out of their misery. Estinien gives Alphinaud a call, and he turns off the Allagan prison, freeing Tiamat and giving you all a super powerful ally who, unlike Racevelger, has no problem killing stuff. The timing couldn't be better, because Urianger calls G'raha to let him know that Bahamut's been sieging over Paglth'an, and he's leading a whole army of dragons. Not waiting for any of you, Estinien hops on Tiamat's back and flies off to Paglth'an while you all head to Ul'dah to meet up with the others. You all would have gone straight there with Estinien, but Alice needed at least a little bit of rest, otherwise she would have just charged in, passed out, and died. By the time you reach Ul'dah, Thancred tells you that Paglth'an is already under siege. The Immortal Flames have already headed out to back the Ammoja up, which is kind of surprising to Alphinaud since the peace talks had fallen through. But Nanamo has said they were friends, and peace treaty or not, she wasn't going to leave them to die. Even the entire syndicate voted to help, but they were probably thinking about all the stuff they could steal from the Ammoja during the fighting or something else. The other Alliance nations sent soldiers to the area too, but they still won't be much of a match for the dragons. Oddly enough, even though people are fighting near Bahamut, no one's been tempered by him. Primals never missed a chance to take new servants to boost their power, which means he most likely can't. Primals never serve anyone, so something had to be different about the summoning of Bahamut to make him work for the Ascians in the first place, and whatever that was must have removed his ability to temper people. That means that the people don't have to have the Echo to fight Bahamut. Anyone can. Granted, that doesn't mean that they can't get eaten, so the Scions still need to get out there as soon as possible. They're all very eager to rush off and fight, especially since Fordola and Arenvald were scouting in the area and are definitely caught up in the fighting. So it's off to Paglth'an, one of the biggest settlements for the Ammoja. When you get there, Tiamat and Estinien are already putting in some work blowing up tempered Imperials, Dragons, and Magitech alike. Remember, Estinien is running around with Nidhogg as part of him, so you basically have two of the first brood out and about wrecking things. With the Scions cutting a path through the area from one angle, and the Dragoon and Dragon going from another, you all draw out Bahamut. Tiamat and Estinien attack him, knocking him out of the air, but Tiamat takes a critical hit in the process, so you and your allies have to finish off the injured dragon. Hurt or not, the dragon is still trying to murder you, but the damage Estinien and Tiamat did to him makes it a fight you can actually win. With Bahamut defeated, Tiamat vows that from this day forward, the dragons of Mericidia will never again be enslaved by the Ascians, and she's going home to make sure of that. The fact that you all came and fought and died beside the Ammoja works wonders for the peace talks. Seeing what you've done, the chief agrees to call you all allies in the war with the Garleans, and he plans on making sure all of his people know it. That's some good news that you have to share with the Sultana. However, Alphinaud is a little worried because he didn't see Arenvald or Fordola, which means they're already inside of the tower. They are, and what they see is horrifying. Hundreds of Ammoja are hooked up to the tower, and when Arenvald goes to free them from the machine, it turns on, drawing something out of their bodies. Not knowing what it is, the two of them go to run out of the tower, but a corrupted version of Ifrit drops down and attacks them. Back in Ul'dah, the Scions are waiting around for news, and when it comes, it's bad. Arenvald was hurt. Bad. And he's being treated right now. Alphinaud rushes off to check on him, and because Alice knows her brother won't take this well, she tells you and Estinien to go with him. He's frantic, but there's nothing to do but wait. Fordola's been waiting the whole time too, and when the surgeons come out, they don't even let you all see him, which means his wounds are very bad. Alphinaud starts to blame himself, and Fordola snaps at him for stupidly thinking he can save everyone. People die, especially those who fight, and if you're going to blame yourself for every death or injury, you need to stay away from fighting, period. Alphinaud knows that, but he still thinks all life is precious, something that Fordola points out will end up getting everyone killed. She sounds a lot like Estinien, something that the Dragoon points out. There are enough people like the two of them, and they aren't the ones who end up changing the world. So they need people like Alphinaud, the people who become heroes. Granted, most of them end up dead, and Fordola thinks you'll all be next. There's not much more to be done there, so the Scions all head to a meeting with the Sultana because she wants to talk to you all. She promises that Arenvald will get the best care, so you don't have to worry about that, but you need to know what the two of them discovered. They needed to hear about the Lunar Ifrit. With that bit of knowledge, it's pretty clear that the towers were made to use captured beastmen to summon primals. That still doesn't tell them how they use their captured victims to summon primals against their will. It could be just being next to the towers bends the people to the will of Garlemald, and they summon the primals to help their new master. After seeing one up close, Thancred realizes that the towers look similar to the big building that he saw in Garlemald. If that tower can temper people to them, that would explain why Fandaniel was able to get so many Imperials on his side so quickly. That's bad, but there are worse things to worry about. Ifrit wasn't the only primal summoned. They don't seem to be as powerful as Bahamut, so the Grand Companies are headed out to deal with them. They would ask the Scions to do it, but they'd all rather save your strength for later since you just dealt with Bahamut. The Ammoja chief did keep his word, and they have agreed to support the alliance. Nanamo hopes the treaty with them will help cause the other tribes to join as well, but only time will tell. With the talks done, Nanamo heads off to meet with the Syndicate, and the Scions head back to the Rising Stones to prepare for what's next, and Kral wants Estinien to come with you, which he agrees to do just to keep the woman from chasing him again. Since you know that Fandanio and his minions are planning on destroying the planet, Crow thinks it's time to ask Sharlayan for aid. They have some useful knowledge, but they're not really likely to help. But Crow doesn't think they will deny your request for help during the final days, so she's already taken the steps to go as an emissary for the Alliance. That's not the only thing she wants to go there to study. After what she heard about your adventure on the first, Crow started to wonder what Hydaelyn's blessing really was, and they started to wonder when was the last time you spoke directly to Hydaelyn. It has been a long time, which is strange since she should have contacted you when you fought the literal heart of Zodiark. Throughout history, Hydaelyn would intervene, but she hasn't done it in a while, not to you or to anyone else with a gift. On the first, Thancred talked to the Oracle of Light, but that had been Minfilia, not Hydaelyn, and Minfilia was doing her own thing, so that technically doesn't count. That means something might be blocking her voice from all of her followers, but there's no way to tell. If there's any hope of finding out, it'll be from Sharlayan. Crow wants to go, but that'll leave the Scions one man short, and seeing how hard Alphinaud has taken Arenvald's injuries, she asks Estinien to officially join the Scions. The hopeful look on Alphinaud's face makes him finally accept and officially become a member of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. And that's where we're going to stop for today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and share the video with your friends. And if you want to buy me a coffee for my work, sign up to become a member of the channel. Until next time, guys. Later.